It had become something of a ritual recently. Every spring we would get in our motorhome and go off around the country visiting our family, trying to keep in touch with all of them. It's funny how we use that phrase, isn't it? In touch. We must keep in touch, we say. Stay in touch, won't you? I'll be in touch, I promise. Our three children are unfortunately scattered about somewhat. Jane and her husband, Stephen, are in Derby, where he works for Rolls-Royce Aerospace. Robert and his partner, Inez, are in Bristol, where they both teach at the university, and Jamie is splitting his time between London and San Francisco, doing what one does in tech startups. We've also got some very good friends, old neighbours of ours, from years ago who relocated to the borders, and we'd like to catch up with them if we can. And we don't get to see the grandchildren that often, so it's great to be able to park the van up outside the house and stay for a few days. Well, if none of them got very big houses, so we feel it's a way of being able to extend the visit without getting under their feet or putting them to too much trouble. And it's a real little home from home. So this year we started the preparations the same way we usually do. Now, we don't actually keep the van at our house as we have not much driveway, not big enough to keep it there permanently. And it so happens an acquaintance of ours has a small holding a few miles away, and he lets us keep it there on a bit of land at the back for a very small rent. It's a very handy arrangement, and when we're about to set off on one of our trips, we go over to his place, pick up the van and bring it back home to load up with everything we need for the visit. And that's just what we did on this occasion. And after giving it a good clean, we got everything inside that we normally take with us. Food, books, bedding, 2 folding bikes and so on. And we were ready to go. Then, of course, there was a bit of a snag. Well, quite a lot of a snag, actually. Lockdown. Well, we'd seen it coming, I suppose, but we rather hoped that we would be able to get the trip done and be homeward bound before it all got really serious. So that was that. So it seemed. Catherine and I have been married for 50 years now, and I really thought that there were no ways left in which she could surprise me. But it turned out I was wrong. Now, I was feeling somewhat down at having to cancel our plans when she looked at me with a strange twinkle in her eye and said, "Let's go anyway." Well, slightly taken aback by this surprising and rather uncharacteristic suggestion, I just stared blankly for a moment. Catherine is quite used to me staring blankly at her, usually when I'm meant to have remembered something. On this occasion, I managed to muster up a reply. "We can't go," I said. It's breaking all the rules. And besides, it's not really safe. We're neither of us that young. And with your dodgy lung and my palpitations, we're well inside the high-risk category. "I don't care," she replied. "I've been really looking forward to a few days away in the van, and I'm not going to let some bloody Chinese virus mess it up for us." And that, apparently, was that. Later that evening, with the motorhome carefully levelled and the electricity and water locked up and hooked up, we sat and enjoyed a well-earned cup of tea together. And with the bed made up and the curtains drawn and the radio quietly playing light music in the background, it was our cosy home from home again. Except it wasn't that far from home at all. If you'd looked out of the van window before we drew the curtains, you would have seen the bay window at the front of our lounge. Well, we knew we couldn't go anywhere in the van, really. But that didn't mean we couldn't enjoy it. At least we'd still have a sense of being somewhere. That wasn't stuck in our house. I mean, we even drove it down the road a few miles and back again, so that we had some kind of journey. We still saw the rest of the family, of course, electronically. But it's not the same, is it? But that's the whole point of social distancing, of course. Distance. Space between us. But we keep in touch. Except, of course, there's no actual touch, is there? And that's what I miss the most.